So, I've done the French tech tree, and one thing I saw in the comments was the fact that you guys want me to do the Chinese tech tree, or put China in the Enlisted, and I don't even know what to say to this, but let's do it. Of course, I already made a lot of videos of why I think China would be a very good idea for Enlisted, but I've actually never done a tech tree, well, until now, for China. But of course, this tech tree is not only made possible through me, it's made possible through friends of the like at Discord, so if you haven't joined, like or subscribe, join the Discord. And thank you very much to Stalinium once again for making this tech tree. And that said, let's get started. Of course, well, there's a lot of things, of course, and considering of, but one of the things is we have to talk about why I think China is a good idea once again, why I think this entire thing is a good idea, and what makes this even possible. But that said, let's get started. For China, the reason why I think China would be a good addition is the fact that China is a very interesting faction, not because it can offer a lot of new weapons. Well, let's just say the fact that Enlisted is not lazy. But if Enlisted is not lazy, you can add a lot of new interesting weapons, but if Enlisted is lazy, the good side is that fact that it is a very good beginning faction. For example, it is one of the only factions to have the PPSH and the essentially M3 Greeks gun or the M1 Thompson in the same tech tree, so that's very interesting. And from what Enlisted is doing, well, we just might be saying that China could be next on the block, or should I say, after United Kingdom, after Italy, after potentially the French, we might be seeing China. But that said, let's get started with today's video. And the first thing we have to even talk about before why China is a great idea is its historical contributions, which does make sense in this video. Historically, China was split into two camps, the nationalists and the commies, as once again we knew who won the war. Not that war, the Chinese Civil War, but anyway, the entire thing is that both sides was either influenced by the Germans / the Americans / the Japanese, and the Soviets / the Japanese and / the Americans, well, from what the communists can capture. But needless to say, both sides had a very good decent amount of weapons that they can both use, and for this instance, like in War Thunder's instance, I'm going to be using both sides, essentially, well, both weapons that you will be seeing. So hence, this tech tree is actually for both nationalist China and communist China during World War II. But that said, let's get started. In Tier 1, we have the Katakano M1991, Gewehr 98, Mosin M91, M9130s, and Hanyang 88 rifles, with the last one being the most domestic one, and everyone else being essentially, how do I say it, foreign bought. Those are the rifle sections. In terms of Tier 2 weapons, we have the FN 1924-30, which is a Belgium design, 1917 Enfield, the ZBV-98-22, ZBVZ-24, and the Chiang Kai-shek rifle, or should I say the K98K. Once again, nothing special except for the fact that they have a jack-of-all-trades weapons that are interesting, and mostly British / German / well, Czech and Belgium. So, yeah, and domestic owned produced licensed copies. In Tier 3, we have the Mannlicher Lee Enfield No. 4 Mark I Hanyang 88 with Type 28, and the M1903A3 Springfield rifles. From that on, we have Tier 4, which is the M1 Carbine and the M1 Garand, and Tier 5, we either have the M2, which makes sense, and at Tier 4, we can also add the SVT-40, SVT-38, and the list goes on. And at Tier 5, we can add the M2 Carbine, which was issued to China, and a multitude of other Soviet weapons that, if you guys desire to put in there, well, let's just put it in there. In terms of the SMG department, we have the MP-34, the SIG-1920, and their multiple copies, pretty much similar to the Japanese. Not to mention, if you want to add Japanese weapons, go ahead. We have the full auto M712 with stock, and a Sten. Yes, a Sten, which makes sense. You might also want to add a grease gum somewhere in between Tier 2 and Tier 3, or even Tier 1. In Tier 3, we have the UD-M42, and we have the Thompson M1918 and the Thompson variants. And we have the Thompsons for Tier 4. You might also want to add in the PPD and the PPSH, and for Tier 5, you might as well just add, well, pretty much whatever you want to add, because at this point, China has very good everything that you can add. In terms of the HMGs, we have the Hotchkiss M1922, Type 11, the Madsen, the LS26, the Brand ZB VZ26, and the DP27 Lewis gun at Tier 3. Tier 4, you have the SIG K7, the ME model FN 1930, and the list goes on. The reason why you want all of these is the fact that until the late game, which is Tier 5, you might all be just straight outright giving them the 100 round RD44 or the 100 round, once again, Browning, which is interesting. At Tier 1, we have the Boys anti-tank rifle. For Tier 2, we have the Type 89, Type 10, and the M1A1 flamethrower. The list goes on for Tier 3 for mostly French, either French, American, mostly American actually, weapons that they can use, and some domestic designs. Going on to the tank department, we have a full view of almost everything, because we have Germans, we have French, we have British. Same goes for Tier 2 and Tier 3 and then Tier 4. The only issue is the fact that at Tier 4 I would advocate for something like the T-3485 or something along the lines. And while we're at it, might as well just add the Shermans, because China did use both Shermans and T-34s. Another thing that you should also add, or should consider, is the adding of Tier 5 weapons, such as IS-2 or the Pershing, which both were used, so good luck. In terms of planes, we have essentially Germans, French, British, and Soviets. Once again, a lot of stuff. Same for Tier 2, Tier 3, and Tier 4. Tier 5, I would suggest something along the lines of the IS-1944, heavy bombers, the P-47, the P-51 Mustang with, well, Cold War era adoptments. And yes, I did say Cold War adoptments, because the issue with China, I think, is most of these weapons for both the nationalists and the communists is that they got most of their weapons during the Cold War. Well, at least the late-tier World War II weapons during the Cold War, such as the IS-2s. So that's interesting. And in terms of everything else, we have the pistols, which no one are interested in, so that's gonna be that. Overall, I would say the Chinese tech tree is a very interesting tech tree if Enlisted decides to add them in as, how do I say it, well, let's just say if they want to make China fun and not just another tech tree that is good for the new players. But overall, it is still good for new players because you have experience of all weapons: Chinese, Japanese, Italian, British, American, Soviet, list goes on, and not to mention the Japanese, which are interesting. But overall, China is a mix of everything, and it is very, very fun. But that's it. That's all for this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord. What tech tree do you guys want me to review next? Comment in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next one.